Hello, my BariAftercare friends, and welcome to a new podcast episode. Woo woo, I'm excited. You know, I'm always excited about talking about these topics. And today's topic is personal power and your bariatric lifestyle. Let me tell you how I came up with this topic. Because in the BariAftercare program on Facebook, and if you're not part of this, you are missing out, my friends. Had a patient tell me just yesterday that we do it all on there, and we do. And power was one of our words of the week in BariAftercare, and it really got me thinking about this, about the word power and the power of the word power and the kind of power we give the word power and the kind of power we give other people. And you hear words like power differential, like in relationships, if there's a big power differential in a relationship, it's not a good thing. So it's not a good idea for employees to be having a relationship with the boss because there's a power differential. Or a college student to having a relationship with the professor. There's a power differential. It's kind of a negative use of that word. But this word power can mean positive things, it can mean negative things. So we're really going to go deep into this because when I talk about power, I want to talk about it in this podcast in the sense of developing what's referred to as personal power, which also can be a good thing or not a good thing. We're going to use it in the sense of it's a good thing. Personal power in a healthy way. Most things in life, there's a healthy version or an unhealthy version. For example, it can be very healthy to be selfish. So there's healthy selfish and there's unhealthy selfish. Healthy selfish means I engage in self-care. I set boundaries for myself. I take time to meditate or exercise or, watch a television show or whatever it is. So when we talk about power and we talk about personal power usually has a positive connotation, but I suppose there are ways to use it negatively as well. We're going to do a deep dive into that. So overall, we're going to talk about what do you think of when you hear the word power, or maybe who do you think of? What comes to your mind when we say power? And we're going to define what's meant by personal power and what it looks like to have a healthy sense of personal power. And for those people who have developed this healthy sense of personal power, how do they keep it? What does it look like on a day-to-day basis? And what does that look like as a post-op or as someone who's lost a significant amount of weight in whatever way and wants to keep that weight off? How can you claim and demonstrate positive personal power as you develop the healthy BariAftercare lifestyle? Or as I said, any way you've lost weight, how do you maintain that weight loss and how do you develop this healthy sense of personal power in that process? Then we're going to talk also about the steps that you can take to establish the positive personal mindset that goes with a positive sense of power. Personal power. All right, here we go. First of all, what do you think of when you hear the word power? Or maybe you think of a person or a group of people. Who do you think of? So the actual word power can be used in several different contexts. It can be the ability to do something or act in a particular way, like having the quality of. So the power of speech, the power of your words. Words can have a big impact. No, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Baloney. Most of us have been very hurt by words. I know from working with patients for a long time that a lot of people who struggled with weight have been hurt by the words of others in relation to their weight. I was hurt by words in a number of ways by my mother. I've hurt people with my words. So the power of your words, that's one definition of power. Or it can be used as the capacity to or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. So it can be used in the sense of having authority or a sense of command. Like maybe you're like, oh my God, she had me under her power. Like I was so impressed, or I was so, awed. This person had so much power. Think about the Swifties, right? How much power does Taylor Swift have over our economy? So very influential, a lot of authority. Power can also be personal strength or force that's exerted by someone or something. The power of the storm, so the strength, the force of something. Ooh, that's a powerhouse, we might say. That person comes in and it's like, woo, they're a force of nature. It can also be used in the sense of energy that's produced by mechanical, electrical, or other means like electrical power or solar power. So this word has a whole bunch of different meanings, and it can have positive connotations or negative connotations. You can think of people who have exerted their power, their influence, their authority in healthy ways. I think of Andy Stanley. He's a preacher. He, to me, has exerted his power or influence by developing many, many churches or other, prominent leaders in the religious community. You can also think of the power exerted by political figures. Some positive, some not so positive, some really super negative. And it's like that with people sometimes in a work environment. They can really motivate people. They can motivate a team. Or with coaches, they can have a lot of power and influence over their team in a positive way or negative way. Same with high school peers, right? I mean, there's some people who seem to have more power than others. We're going to talk about that. And do they use it in positive ways or negative ways? And how do you use your sense of personal power? Or do you even believe you have a sense of personal power? We've all heard that expression that absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. So sometimes I think people who seem to have immense power, and I'm thinking of some people in the music industry who are really in the news these days, who've had tremendous power and authority over the music industry. And yet they've done destructive or allegedly done some very corrupt things. So people who get a great deal of power or feel like they have all this power can corrupt. They can also use that power for good. So let's talk about personal power. And the first time I heard about this concept of personal power was when I was in treatment, which most of you know was 35 years ago. And they would talk about using your personal power, which I didn't understand at all. But I'm going to help you try to understand it by using some information that I found online from different authors. And I will link all of this information in the show notes so you can look up these articles yourself. The first one that I'm going to reference comes from an article in Psychology Today. And there's a psychologist named Dr. Robert Firestone who referred to personal power in this way. He says, personal power is based on, now think of yourself and other people, is based on strength, confidence, and competence that individuals gradually acquire in the course of their development. It is self-assertion and a natural, healthy striving for love, satisfaction, and meaning in one's interpersonal world. All right, so let's talk about this before I go on to talk about what else Dr. Robert Firestone has said about personal power. Think about your life as a bariatric person, someone who has struggled with the disease of obesity all of your life. In some ways, I'm guessing that your personal power, your sense of strength, confidence, and competence has been derailed a little bit along your journey of development. Development meaning stages of life, toddlers, preschoolers, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, adult life, midlife, older age. Those are what I'm talking about in terms of development. And most people increase in their sense of personal strength and confidence and competence developmentally. And most likely you have in many areas of your life as well. Just by experience and going through life and doing things, we develop some of this. We can also be hit hard in certain of these areas that impact our sense of confidence, that negatively impact our sense of competence or being able to do things well. Doesn't have to be across the board in your life, but maybe, with the disease of obesity and you've been teased and bullied and, not included and left out and ostracized and made fun of and picked on, that's going to do a number on your sense of confidence. That's going to do a number on your sense of competence in this area of your life. So maybe in certain areas, you need to increase your sense of personal power. And we'll talk about how that plays out in your bariatric lifestyle. Because in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle, you've got to be able to articulate yourself. You have to be able to set boundaries with people. You have to communicate assertively, not aggressively or passive aggressively. So sometimes those things are hampered as we develop. I know for me, a lot of my insecurities related to family dysfunction, related to my lack of physical development in certain areas, and other things for which I was teased or made fun of or left out, or, all those same kinds of consequences affected me for a long time, so that by the time I was officially an adult and into my young adult years, I didn't feel like I had much of a sense of personal power in certain relationships. In other ones, I have an overly developed sense of power. But when I talk about an overly developed sense of power, what I mean is I was kind of a bully because I didn't want to be hurt. And so that overly confident, that unkind, like I learned from my mother, mouth, was really a way of demonstrating not really having a sense of personal power. So back to Robert Firestone. He also says, personal power represents a movement towards self-realization and, fancy word here, transcendent goals in life. Ooh, spoken like a true psychologist, which I didn't know what that meant, so I looked it up. True psychologist here. So having personal power often represents a movement towards self-realization, meaning I'm getting to know myself better. I'm looking at my strengths. I'm looking at my weaknesses. I can't get through a podcast without coughing or sneezing. Sorry about that. So am I developing self-realization, like these are my strengths? Am I allowing myself to acknowledge my strengths? These are not my strengths. These are the things I'm good at. These are the areas in which I excel. Do I realize over time the things that I need to work on? That's good stuff. Do I have personal power to work toward these transcendent goals? So what is a transcendent goal? It's a goal that aims you to realize something that seems out of reach, something that is like, it's going to outlast you, has a positive impact on other people around you. Now let's talk about weight loss. Let's talk about weight loss as a transcendent goal. First of all, for a lot of people, it may seem out of reach, like, I don't know if I can attain that. In addition, it's kind of a legacy. Like you want your kids and your nieces and your nephews and your siblings, if they outlive you, to say, you know what? She really struggled with that disease of obesity, but by golly, she set her mind to do this, to get healthier, to live a healthier lifestyle, and she did it. She did it. And so you are teaching, you are leaving a legacy and having a positive impact on the people around you. Those are transcendent goals. They affect you, but they go beyond you. Really important. What kind of transcendent goals do you want to have in relation to your weight? Good ones, I'm sure. But if your personal power isn't intact, are you willing to look at issues that you have? Are you willing to increase your self-realization and say, you know what, I really suck in the area of setting boundaries, or man, my communication skills are trash. And if I don't improve those things, it's going to be more difficult for me to follow through in living this healthy lifestyle that I want. So we're going to work on developing this personal power, and we're going to talk about how to do that. So Dr. Robert Firestone also says, the primary aim of personal power, this is important, is mastery of self, not other people. So I'm not trying to become powerful in the sense of famous or rich. That's a different kind of power that people are seeking. Personal power is, I want to improve myself. I want to make my life better. And in BariAftercare, I talk all the time, and so does Laura and the other people who are part of BariAftercare. This goes beyond bariatrics. We want everybody to live a healthier lifestyle physically, which is the biology of the disease of obesity. We want you to live at a weight that's healthier for your body. But in addition to that, this is a whole person model. I and we in BariAftercare want everybody to improve themselves to be their best self possible, not just their physically healthiest, but emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationship-wise. So that's what this personal power is. I want to have mastery of self, meaning I'm going to work on improving every area of my life. Personal power is a state of mind. It's an attitude. It's not an attempt to maneuver or control others. It's not because I don't feel okay about myself and so I'm going to have power. I'm going to be the master of the universe and I'm going to control you and you and you, and everybody will bow at my feet and tell me how wonderful I am. That is an unhealthy use of power. And what it demonstrates is I feel like crap about myself. So personal power has nothing to do with taking control of anybody else's life. I'm trying to become my best self in every area of my life. And personal power is not based on how many people we can get to do what we want. It's not about control. Personal power is based on competence. I believe I can do this. I have the skills and I have the abilities to do this. It's based on vision. Where do I want to go? How do I want to use myself in this life to have the best life I can have, be the best person I can have, but also to affect other people's lives in healthy ways. Personal power is about positive personal qualities. What do I like about myself? How can I use these to help others? And it's about service. The older I get, the more I believe that my life is about being of service to other people while taking care of myself. So when I externalize this sense of personal power, I'm going to be seen as, but also genuinely be more generous, more creative, kinder than other forms of power, like power to control people or power to get what I want when I want it. And there are people who are after that because it's going to make them feel okay on the outside. But this is an inside job. We have to develop ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. That's what personal power is. So another psychologist named George Everly Jr. wrote an article, and I will link this, called Laws of Personal Power. And the subtitle is How to Create and Use the Personal Power You Have Waiting. I love that. So how do I create this wonderful sense of personal power? And we're going to talk about how do I apply this to my life as a bariatric post-op or someone who's lost a lot of weight with or without surgery. He says, power consists of 3 dimensions. The ability to influence or control other people. You can do that in a positive way, or think of a coach. You want a coach who's going to influence or control other people in a positive way. How to create and use the power you have to influence the environment within which one lives or works. So how can I use my strengths to improve my family, to improve my community, to serve my community, to serve and work with the people with whom I work? And number 3 is self-control. So 3 dimensions: the ability to influence or control other people, the environment in which you live, and yourself. Self-control. Love this. Love this. How can I do that in my bariatric lifestyle? How can I be a person who helps other people who are going through this process? How can I be a person who influences my environment, my family, cleaning out the junk from my house, helping my family to engage in healthier activities than just going out to eat all the time? And how can I improve every area of who I am personally? Love, love, love this. So let's talk about bariatrics and your life and your journey with the disease of obesity. What can you control and influence in relation to your disease? We have talked about this many, 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 many times because there are so many aspects of the disease of obesity that you cannot influence. No matter how much personal power you develop, you're not going to change the environment you grew up in as a child, or whether or not your parents or grandparents or family provided healthy options. Can't change that. At this point in time, you're not going to change the DNA that got you to where you're at. People can change DNA and it can influence future generations, but at the point where you're at now, that's not something you can influence. You cannot influence the culture. If you come from, a Latino or a Hispanic or an African American or an Irish or an Italian, whatever your cultural history is, you're not going to change the foods in that culture. You cannot influence that by yourself, but you can influence your environment. You can influence the environment in which you live. You can encourage people at work. Don't sit candy on your desk for everybody. Now, you don't get to control people, but you can suggest that. You can lead by example, and for your birthday, you can bring in an edible fruit arrangement. You can influence your environment at home and the people in your home by suggesting that you guys keep trigger foods out of the house. You can influence your environment and your family by saying, when we go out to eat, let's focus on protein first. You can influence your family by saying, let's engage in healthier physical activities. So you got to know the things you can control and the things that you can't. So as far as other people go, you don't get to control or influence them, but you can suggest, you can make recommendations, you can lead by example. And your environment, you absolutely have influence over. And we just talked about examples. And yourself, 100%, because you can work on learning the skills that maybe you lack. You can work on getting additional education and information on things that will help you be a healthier post-op, not just physically, but psychologically and emotionally as well. You have 100% influence in that arena. And this is where you can really increase your personal power and then use it to help others in a really amazing way. This is a critically important topic. Let's learn how to improve our personal power, beginning with self. And I want you to think about the serenity prayer. That's really, a big deal in the 12-step communities, because the serenity prayer is all about figuring out what do I have control over and what I don't, even in terms of diseases like obesity. So the serenity prayer says, God, grant me the serenity, peace of mind, ease of tension, stress relief, serenity in my head and in my life to accept the things I cannot change. So if you're striving to get to a goal weight, but your disease, your biology, your genetics are going to prevent you from getting to some ridiculously low goal weight, you're fighting a losing battle and you're not going to be at peace. You're not going to have serenity. So accept the things I can't change. I can't change this aspect of my disease. Grant me the courage to change the things I can, which include what goes in my mouth, how much movement I make, if I prepare meals, if I hang around with people with a good attitude, if I have a positive support group around me. Courage to change the things I can't. Courage, why? Because it's scary to make big life changes. And the wisdom to know the difference. I can't change my spouse. I can't change my children. I can encourage, I can recommend, I can suggest, I can lead by example, but ultimately, every human being has to make choices for themselves. Now, think about people who have been stigmatized for a long time in life. If you've struggled with your weight for a long, long time, it's likely you have been stigmatized by society, by classmates, by coaches, by teachers, by aunts, by uncles, who knows? But chances are good you have been stigmatized. And when people are stigmatized, whether it's related to weight, whether it's related to having red hair, whether it's related to having experienced trauma or abuse as a child, there are all kinds of ways. Minorities, right? There are a lot of ways people are stigmatized unfairly, for sure. But what happens a lot of times, especially the younger you are when this happens, is we defer to other people. We hand over our power. Yes, I'll do this for you because subconsciously, whether you're willing to admit it to yourself or not, I want to be included. I want to be part of the group. I want to be accepted. So we defer to other people. Oh my gosh, those people are so, I just want to be with the in-group. So if they ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. We defer to other people. I'm dealing with a granddaughter right now. She's 7 years old. And she's got this little girl who bullies her, says, I'm not going to be your friend. And my granddaughter's deferring. Well, I'll bring you a toy. I'm working really hard to teach her. No, you're giving away your power. When we defer to other people, there are usually reasons, right? Like I want to be accepted or I want to be included. We all have a healthy need to be accepted and included and to feel like we belong and to feel like we have value. All those things, they're normal, healthy needs. But when we don't feel them because we've been stigmatized in some way, a lot of times we hand over our power and say, to get my needs met, I will do thus and such. Talk to many of us young women, I'm not young now, but I was once, who tell me I'm cute, tell me I'm pretty, tell me I'm whatever, and I'll end up in your bed. Really an unhealthy reason, but I was so desperate for feeling desirable, for feeling wanted, and that's a pretty common tale. So think about the areas in which you defer your power, and we'll talk about some of those again, some examples of how we defer our power. We don't want to defer our power. We want to increase our power. We're going to talk about those. But let me give you some examples because maybe you think, oh, I don't give away my personal power. Oh, I bet you do. Because I know I have in many ways in my lifetime and still every once in a while now. Like I'll be like, why did I just say I would do that? Or why did I just agree to thus and such? So another article by a therapist named Amy Morin, who again, I will link this article in the notes. She wrote an article called 9 Ways to Keep Your Personal Power. So if you want to hold on to your personal power, here's what you do. Quit talking like you're a victim. Oh, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. You know, I can't win for losing. Oh my God, no matter what I do, the universe is against me. Oh, no matter what I do, I can't seem to whatever. Victim, victim, victim. Victim, if you hear somebody who sounds like a victim, that is equivalent to giving away your personal power. And according to this therapist, it's really, really difficult to catch this and stop it. So some examples she gives, and this is straight from her article. These are not, I'm not taking credit for this. This belongs to Amy Morin, M-O-R-I-N. Giving you credit, Amy. Her examples include like a business executive who confides in someone that an associate, they just bring out the worst in me. So I'm giving away my personal power to this coworker that just bring out the worst in me. I'm giving my power away to this person by not being my best self. Or maybe there's a stay-at-home parent. This is another example by Amy, who says her day hinges almost entirely on the type of mood her spouse is in. So if the spouse is in a grumpy mood, she feels lousy. Codependent, right? I'm calling it codependent. I take my cues from you, and I'm going to feel a certain way based on you. I'm giving you the power to determine how I feel. Okay, bariatric patients, this is coming from me, not Amy. If you get on a scale and that number puts you in a foul mood, you are giving a piece of metal the power over you. That is not healthy, my friends. That is turning over your personal power to say, okay, that's a piece of information, as Laura Preston tells us, and it's true. A scale gives me a piece of information, not about my worth as a human being. If a scale knocks you down emotionally, you are giving away your power. And at some point, almost everyone's given their power away to somebody else. Think about if your parent, you're an adult now, okay? Think about if something your parent says shatters you emotionally. That is giving over your personal power. I talk about this in the Gain While You Lose class in greater detail. But if you have a conversation with one of your family members on the phone and all of a sudden you're grumpy and moody and you're not being your best self, or you're emotionally eating, you have turned over your power to be okay because of somebody else's opinion. Not okay, friends. That is a big lack of personal power. And I will give you an example in which I may have shared with you in the past, but I distinctly remember a day when my mother, with her vicious mouth, was saying something nasty, and I was so angry and hurt, and I was in treatment at this time. I went in the bathroom and I said to myself, no, I will not cry about this. I will not give her the power to have that much effect on my emotions. That's about her, not me. I'm okay. So when you give away your personal power, and again, this is back to the information provided by Amy Morin. She says, giving away your personal power robs you of your own mental and emotional strength. But if you want to maintain your own strength, you've got to make a decision that I am going to take back my power. Well, what does that mean? She says, before you can create the positive change, you got to recognize the ways that you give away the power. She says, and I totally agree, you give away your power anytime you allow other people or circumstances to control the way you think, feel, or behave. All right, bariatric friends, be honest with yourself. And it's not just bariatric friends, but this is the audience that this podcast is for. So think about how often you give away your power because if somebody says something to you or looks at you in a funny way, or you even think they're thinking negatively about you. You are giving that person so much power because if they're influencing how you feel in a negative way or a positive way, you are giving them way too much power in your life. So if you say your boss ruined your day, then you're giving your boss all that power over your life. Or when you say your significant other makes you angry, you give them power over how you feel. That's why when we do retreats and stuff, I'm like, let's talk about this business about people saying, you made me angry. You choose how you feel. You choose how you feel. So somebody might say something, one person might go, oh, I'm really angry. And another person goes, dang, that is about you, not me. The person who says, dang, that's about you, not me, has a good sense of personal power. Because how you think, what you say, is not going to take away my serenity or how I feel about me. Now, there are times we need to listen to input and feedback, but that's a whole different thing. But when somebody says something and you just crumble, you're giving them a whole lot of power. So Amy says, on the other hand, when you decide no one's going to have the power to control how you feel about yourself, how you think about the world, so your politics aren't going to influence mine, your religious views aren't going to influence mine so that I lose my mind, the kind of day you're going to have, how you spend your time, or who you're going to spend it with, you empower yourself to create your best life. So when you say things like, I take care of everybody else, I don't have time to engage in self-care, you're giving everybody else too much power. Personal power says, yes, I'm going to care for other people. They're important to me. I love them. I'm going to help them out. But guess what, sister? I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to go do my exercise. I'm going to go have that massage. I'm going to go do that 15-minute meditation. The world can survive without me. That's healthy sense of personal power. In other words, how good are you at setting boundaries? How willing are you to take time for self-care? If you're not doing those things, it's a good indication that you're giving your personal power away to other people because of something you need or you want. So Amy, our therapist Amy Morin, in her article, 9 Ways to Keep Your Personal Power, says, the 2 best ways to stop giving away your personal power. Reframe your language. I love this. So if you say, you made me feel bad, remind yourself, holy smokes, this ain't right. I alone am in control of how I feel. You don't have the power to make me feel anything. Say what you want. I'm in charge of how I react to that. Or when you're tempted to say, well, I just have to. I didn't have a choice. That's a bunch of BS. And you're giving away your personal power because you do have a choice. Remind yourself that every decision you make is a choice. So a decision to tell your family and friends, don't bring that stuff into my house. That's using personal power. If you say, you know what, I'm happy for y'all, go to the buffet, I'll catch up with you later. You don't have to say, well, I had to go because everybody else was going there. No, you take the power for yourself and say, that's not a safe place for me, but I'll meet up with y'all later. Beautiful. You've made a choice for yourself and you are in control. All right. You can say, oh, I had to work late. I had to go to the store. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Now, there may be consequences if you choose not to do them. So you might sometimes choose to work late because you don't want to get fired. Or you might choose to work late so you get that overtime pay that you want. But you acknowledge that I had a choice. I could have left and gotten fired. That's not the choice I wanted to make. I could have stayed. I made the choice to stay because I wanted the overtime pay. I didn't have to go to the store. I chose to walk into that store. I could have ordered my groceries online. I could have had them sent to my house. Think about what you're saying. You always have a choice. Laura Preston says it all the time. We all have choices. Own it. Don't act like a victim. That's how she started this article, right? Don't act like you're a victim, but I had to. I had no choice. Not true. So the first way, Amy says, the best way to stop giving away your power is reframe your language. Take responsibility for yourself. The second way, she says, is think before you react. This can be tough. We have triggers. So sometimes we'll get triggered and our mouth comes loose and we hurt people. Or sometimes we get triggered emotionally and we turn to food. Think before you react. That whole stop. Stop in your place. Think about what's going on. What do you need? How do you feel? What are your options for that? And then pursue a healthy choice. So, examples she gives are yelling at somebody because you're pissed off. She doesn't say pissed off, she says angry. Or agreeing to do things you don't want to do are ways you might be giving away your power. So if somebody says to you, could you be on this committee, and you don't think about it, you're just like, of course I can, because you overcommit so that you can be involved. Now this takes a lot of self-reflection and honesty, because a lot of people aren't going to say, I volunteer for everything because I want to be needed. They're going to say, I like to help people, which may be true. But come on, friends, if you're overcommitted, you got some need that's being met by that. And we need to get honest with ourselves about what that is. Or, like Laura Preston talked about in her daily take on the BariAftercare this morning, some people are commitment phobic. I'm not going to commit to anything. That's also an issue with your own personal power. What's going on that you refuse to commit to anything? Maybe it's a lack of belief that you can follow through, whatever it is. All right. Amy also gives this example about thinking before you react. Maybe you lash out or say yes to anything that's asked of you. Either one is just a way of giving away your personal power, and it may have become a habit for you. So we have to become aware of when we do this and take the steps to make the changes. So Amy suggests, think before you react. Take that deep breath. Excuse yourself from the situation. Distract yourself for a minute. So maybe you can call somebody and get some input, or feel calmer before you make a decision. You can say, let me check my schedule before you say, of course I'll do that for you. Or if you feel yourself getting frustrated or feeling down, say, you know what? I'm just going to take myself on a timeout, a personal timeout, so that you don't lash out and give somebody else the worst of you, because we don't have the right to take our emotions out on other people. Then Amy talks about reclaiming your power. And she acknowledges this takes a lot of work, like all the other things, right? Like living a healthy BariAftercare lifestyle, like following through with the God of Dooms. Learning to do these things takes a lot of work, but once you've got them, you've got them. And then you're just going to follow the drill, follow the drill. You know how to set boundaries. You know how to talk to people in an assertive way. But it takes hard work to learn and then retain your personal power if you've been used to giving it away. But it is a huge benefit to yourself and everyone around you when you do learn to monitor your personal power. Look for ways that you're voluntarily, being a doormat. If you're going to be a doormat, lay down. Because not having personal power are the people we think about as being doormats. So, think about how you want to be. So, same article, the 9 ways to keep your personal power. I'm going to talk about these, and then I'm going to apply these to your bariatric journey. She says, don't waste your time complaining. She says there's a big difference between complaining and problem solving. Now, I believe that we have to have a few people in our life that we can vent to. Blah, 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 and this is wrong, and that is wrong, and he did this, and she did that, and the boss did this, and the kids did that. Great. Do your grumbling and complaining. And then your friend needs to say, and what are you going to do about it? And what's your part in it? So give yourself a small window of grumbling. But if you're going to grumble and do nothing about it, what that says is, I have no power. I have no choice. I am powerless. And that's a load of crap, because you do have choices. You do have choices. So this is a big problem in the land of bariatrics. because people are constantly complaining. It's so hard. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, which you know if you have listened to this podcast. Yes, friends, it's hard. So is getting a degree, so is being a parent, so is being a bill payer, so is going to work every day. Life is hard. And if you're going to complain and bitch and moan and stay on that hamster wheel, then you're going to remain a victim and you're giving away your personal power, as opposed to saying, whew, these things are hard. You know what? It is hard, and I can do hard things. And the truth is, hard things are hard. But I'm going to step up to that plate and I'm going to say, I can do hard things, and I'm going to do those. People say, oh, I'm just not a breakfast eater. Oh, I just hate to exercise. As if that means you can't do it. But you can. You can. I don't have time. I just don't have time. That is a big load of crap. Keep telling yourself that, right? Lather, rinse, repeat, and nothing will get better, and you will continue to give your personal power away, and nothing will change for the better in your life. So knock it off. Knock it off. Don't waste time complaining. Number 2, accept responsibility for how you feel. Other people don't get to determine your emotions. Well, they made me feel that way. We've already talked about this. My mother-in-law made me feel bad. No, she didn't. You felt bad. You chose to hang on to that bad feeling. You may have that instantaneous automatic feeling, but what are you going to do about it? Like, ooh, that hurt my feelings. Am I going to hang on to that and fall into a pit of despair? Am I going to go, ooh, that hurt my feelings? But I'm not giving her the power to do that. You claim your boss makes you mad. Well, yeah, I felt angry in response to what he said, but what am I going to do about it? Am I going to stay mad and ruin my day and go out and overeat because he made me mad? Or I'm going to say, yeah, I felt angry in response to that, but I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to do something productive. I'm going to share how I think. I'm going to share how I feel. I'm going to work out my anger and frustration in a healthy way. So you got to manage your own emotions, no matter how other people behave. So in the world of bariatrics, I would say this: don't let your feelings drive the bus. Well, I felt hurt because my mother talked about my regain. Or I felt hurt because my aunt said, why are you bothering to do this? Or I felt hurt because I know that person in the restaurant was looking at me and judging me for what I had on my plate. Knock it off, right? Don't let your feelings drive the bus, because they're going to drive you right into a wall and right back to regain. So instead of being, I don't feel like meal prepping. The truth is, I don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it, but don't complain about it. Say, I made the choice not to meal prep. Therefore, I'm going to eat packaged protein. Okay, that works. Just make sure you eat the protein. I don't feel like working out. Translated, friends, let's be honest, I don't want to do it. Okay, then don't do it. But don't complain about regain if you're not doing what you were told is going to work for you in the long run. You know what? Your kids probably don't feel like doing their homework either. How do you respond to that? They probably don't feel like cleaning up their room. They probably don't feel like helping with the dishes. And what do we expect from them? Your coworkers probably don't feel like showing up for a hard day's work, and maybe you don't either. But you do it. Why? You want the reward. The reward is the paycheck. So if you want the reward of maintaining your weight loss, then you do the things that are required to maintain your weight loss. So far, Amy says, here's how we reclaim our power. We don't waste energy complaining. We accept responsibility for how we feel, and we don't push that off on other people. And then we establish healthy boundaries. Have you heard this before? Of course you have. If you give in to guilt trips, this is on Amy. If you give in to guilt, not on Amy, this is what Amy said. If you give in to guilt trips, or you refuse to speak up for yourself, if you're not being assertive, it gives other people power. So don't blame them for wasting your time, or they forced me to do something. If you're forced to do something, then there's an abuse of power. Somebody is taking advantage of you, or they're using coercion or something. But in most of day-to-day life, people aren't forcing us to do things, but we can say, well, they made me, or I just had to. No, again, I teach my grandkids. Well, they made me, take the cookies, or they made me take the dollar out of your purse. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Maybe they said, I won't be your friend if you don't take the dollar from your purse, but you took the dollar. They're not responsible. You're responsible for what you do. Same with bariatrics, right? So you've got to learn to establish those physical boundaries. No, you're not bringing that stuff into my house. The emotional boundaries, if you're going to continue to talk to me about my weight, I'm going to cut off this conversation. You have to set those boundaries. This is what gives you control over how you spend your time. Oh, I didn't have time. The kids all had to be at whatever. Enlist some help. Hire a driver. Do what you got to do. Get some help. All right. So, bariatric patients. Well, I'm traveling. I just had to, I didn't have any choice but to eat the junk food. Yes, you did. You can pack the healthy snacks. You can take the protein bars. You can take the protein, snacks with you. Well, I can't take it through security. Buy it in there. Yeah, I know it costs more, but we're talking about your life and your health. You're not powerless. You're not a victim. So if you let people bring crap food into your house, that's on you, not them. If you allow others in to talk you into going to the buffet when you know it's not safe for you there, that's on you. Or if you bring food into the house, don't use your kids as an excuse. Take responsibility for yourself. Now, the next way to maintain personal power is interesting. And what does it have to do with bariatrics? And it is practice forgiveness. So Amy Cohen, who wrote the article, says holding a grudge against somebody who's hurt you doesn't punish the other person. We know this about anger. It punishes you. You're the one wasting your valuable time thinking about a person who wronged you. You obsess over, or you replay this conversation over and over in your mind, and then you get madder and madder and madder at that person. You're just giving them your power, right? Because you're choosing to stay stuck in this when you could be enjoying the moment, sitting outside looking at the greenery, or being fully present with the person you're having lunch with. So forgiving is the best way to take your power back. And as she states, to be clear, forgiveness is not about saying what the person did was okay. It's about choosing to let go of the hurt and the anger that you carry around that interferes with your ability to enjoy life. It's like, yeah, this person did thus and such, and it's really, in my estimation, wrong. I'm really angry about it, but I'm going to let it go because it's interfering in my time with my partner or my kids or my friends, and I don't want that for me. So, bariatric friends, remember this. Resentments, holding a resentment, being ticked off at somebody for whatever reason, is one of the biggest reasons people relapse or choose to engage in unhealthy foods. Because being angry or being resentful brings up a lot of intense emotions. Food makes us feel better, gives us a dopamine rush, gives you that calm you're looking for maybe. But you can blame your parents, or you can blame society, or you can blame the past, or you can blame your abuse or whatever. But again, remember, if I'm stuck on that hamster wheel of complaining and blaming, it's just going to keep you stuck in your frame of mind. So you might have some big things that you want to work on forgiving. And I love that Amy, the author of this article, mentions that this doesn't mean you condone it happened. No, I will never condone what you did. But I'm going to let go of the grudge because it's dragging me down. Negative thoughts lead to illness in the body. We've talked about that when we talked about Carol and me. So this business of resentments is giving people your personal power. Also, know what your values are. Know what your values are. What are your meaningful matters? I choose health. I choose behaviors, thoughts, and activities that are going to support what I say I want. I want a healthier lifestyle. I want to maintain my weight loss, So if you're not clear of what your values are, in this area and that area and all the areas of your life, you're at risk of what she calls being a helpless passenger rather than a person who's driving their own life. You want to be a person who drives your own life. You don't want to be at risk of jumping on board with other people's ideas and maybe easily being led astray. Take back your power by acknowledging your values. This is what's important to me. Not being liked by you, not being invited by you, not being included by you, but living a healthy lifestyle. Always do the next wise thing to get where I say I want to be. Keith Abloh wrote a book called Living the Truth. And in this book, you get real with yourself. It talks about being honest about what you want. This is what I want. And remember that the effort you put into getting what you want really tells the story about how important that is to you. So I can say I want a healthy lifestyle after surgery or after losing weight. But if I'm not putting the effort into doing it, I don't know how convinced I am that you really want this. And it's scary. Developing this personal power is scary. So just a couple of more things that Amy talks about here. She says, in order to keep your personal power, don't waste time on unproductive thoughts. Don't go around ruminating about things like, oh, I can't believe they did this or so-and-so did that, and gossiping and, oh my God. You know, did you ever come home from work and spend the entire evening wishing you didn't have to go back tomorrow? Well, that's wasting your precious time at home. We don't want to do that. So if you're a bariatric patient, if you're commiserating, oh, woe is me, I can't believe I ate that again today, and I can't believe my weight didn't go down, and oh my God, I got to do this all again tomorrow. So research tells us that we have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts every day. And the majority of those things are things we thought yesterday, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before. We repeat our thoughts, and the majority of these thoughts are negative. So here we are repeating what a victim I am and how hard it is to lose weight and how I can't keep it off and how hard this BariAftercare program is and how hard, and we repeat the negative over and over and over and over. We're giving away our power. I will survive. I will achieve. I will succeed. And back to what she said originally, avoid language that implies a victim, like, I have to work 60 hours a week. I had no choice but to say yes. Yes, you did. These kind of statements infer that you're a victim of I just had to. Unfortunate circumstance, I just had to work. What was I supposed to do? Well, there may be consequences, but you're choosing the consequence. So there you are. So bariatric patients, take responsibility. I chose to have surgery. You made the choice, a conscious choice to have surgery, which implies you're making the choice to do the things you need to do to maintain the weight loss. So you were at least somewhat aware of what the reality of that was going to look like. So quit complaining about it. Maybe you didn't know it was going to be this hard, but you knew it was going to require effort. You knew it was going to require movement. You knew it was going to require eating breakfast even if you didn't feel like it. You knew it was going to require eating every so many hours. You knew it was going to require all the water and the protein first. All right, and make your self-worth independent of other people's opinions. So if somebody says something that you feel hurt by or angry by or whatever, remember that other person's self-worth or their worth of you doesn't determine yours, and you got to get that clear. Your value of me has nothing to do with my value of me. So for bariatrics, you know, you've heard it over and over and over. Ditch the stinking thinking. I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not loyal, I'm not good enough. You know, as I used to say to my friends at the medical college, GTFU, grow the F up, take responsibility on how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. Remembering you have choices. You wanted to lose weight, and either surgery or medications or whatever the combination of gave you the tools to get the weight off. All of this. and especially maintaining weight loss requires effort on your part. So remember, before surgery, they told you all this. You're going to have to exercise. You're going to have to cut down on the carbs and the processed food and da-da-da-da-da. Well, living it day to day can be a whole different story than hearing about it prior to surgery. But you need to take those things and wrap your self-worth around them and pick it up and do what needs to be done. And the last thing is being willing to stand out from the crowd. If you have self-doubt, and if you have a lot of fear, that leads you to want to kind of bleed in with those around you. But doing so is going to lead you into areas that you don't want to go. Like, oh, everybody else is going to the ice cream shop and I don't want to be left out, so I'm going to go. Or, my God, everybody is drinking like a mad person, so I'm going to drink like a mad person. I don't want to be left out. That's giving away your personal power. I'm going to shift gears to a different article called Stepping into Your Personal Power. And there are 6 things that this author, whose name is Sarah Len Mutawasuka, says. And the article I will link, it's called Stepping into Your Personal Power. She said, it's hard to not be able to take direction in which your life is taking, especially if that direction requires you to put yourself out there. So, oh my God, people are going to look at me. It's hard to take this decision to have weight loss surgery because people are going to notice, they're going to talk about it. This is really tough. But amongst all that feeling helpless, that people are going to notice or maybe say something, she said something beautiful happened for her. And she wants to share that experience, which people with personal power do, so that it can hopefully help you. So she says, why should you do this thing? Step out there. Step into your personal power. She said, because people generally go through life as victims, feeling powerless. Oh, I had to do this job, or I had to do that, and I had to take care of them. And sometimes you do, but that doesn't mean to the absolute ignoring of yourself. Laura Preston, taking care of ill parents. She feels obligated to do that, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that she's doing. In the meantime, she's setting super healthy boundaries for herself, for self-care, for her schooling that she's in, for taking care of her dog. So it doesn't mean that you have to give everything up. Yeah, you have choices. So you're not a victim. Go through life. Quit acting like you just are reacting to everything that happens to you. Take a stand and say, I will make choices for myself. And when it comes to your bariatric life, I will make choices to stay away from people who are discouraging. I will make choices to have healthy food in my house. I will make choices to set boundaries with people about what they can bring into my house. I will make choices about how much I allow people to talk to me about weight and diets and etc. I will make choices about how much time I spend focusing on food and recipes and all that stuff because I want to get out of that unhealthy mindset. So she said, if you're wondering why you need to take action towards stepping into your personal power, there's one simple reason: to become the best version of yourself. This is beyond bariatrics. It's all areas of your life. Develop and step into your personal power to become the best version of you. She says, here's how you start. Make a decision to follow through. In the last couple of podcast episodes, we talked about that book for kids, right? Follow through with your decision to be the best you can be. Have a plan. It's not just going to happen. You got to have those goals. You got to take a step. You got to have the mentors. You've got to have the peers and the professionals helping you. Learn and research what you don't know. Learn about healthy communication. Learn about setting boundaries. Learn to overcome trauma and past childhood wounds. You've got to be willing to change those routines and develop those habits. We work on all of this stuff in the BariAftercare program. So again, if you are not part of the BariAftercare program, then I would encourage you to get there. All right, friends, I have a lot more on this. And so this is also going to turn into a 2-part podcast because I don't want to rip you off from this valuable information about what it means to take responsibility for your life, to claim your personal power and be your best self. So I'm going to elaborate on this article, Stepping into Your Personal Power, in the next episode. And then I'm going to share one more article with you called Laws of Personal Power by another psychologist. These are great, great articles, and I would encourage you to look into them, to read them, to listen to these things again. And this information is not just for bariatric patients. This is for anyone who feels victimized by life, for anyone who is struggling with hard things and you're giving your power over to your parents and their attitudes about you, or your boss and how they perceive you, or your spouse and their opinion of you, or anybody. If you're not setting limits, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're giving into everything that people ask you, if you're not taking time for self-care, you need this information about stepping into personal power. Share this with people that have nothing to do with bariatrics because this applies to everybody. I'm really passionate about this, which I'm sure you can guess. And we are going to continue on with this topic in our next podcast episode. Personal Power Part 2. Enjoy this one, share it, and remember, my friends, we're talking about you, your life. Yes, your BariAftercare post-op life, but your entire life. You are more than a post-op person. You are more than your weight. You are a full human being, and that's who you want to be, the best of yourself in every area. So join me again in our next episode when we finish up this really important information on personal power. Get on www.BariAftercare, BariAftercare.com, and get involved in this program. We will help you develop your personal power. I'll see y'all next time, and I thank you for spending your time with me. Bye-bye.